Okay, now we're going to look at the emergency or controlled stop. Okay, sometimes it's called controlled stop, sometimes it's called emergency stop, it doesn't really matter. Basically what that means is bringing the car to a halt as quickly as possible with the most control as possible. So for example, if a kiddie was to come flying down one of these drives on his skateboard or something like that, which you could anticipate but you may not be ready for, then you would have to stop the car as quickly as possible. It's important that if you're driving properly and looking and planning and thinking of these things, you're unlikely to end up doing emergency stops all the time. So look at the awareness and planning video. That gives you a good idea how to avoid having to do these by looking, planning and thinking, and an appropriate speed video which tells you how to judge what speed to do, so you shouldn't need to do an emergency stop. But let's say you need to do one, something untoward happens, helicopter crashes in front of you or whatever, then first thing we do is we don't check the mirrors. You know, you've been nagged to death for now checking those mirrors, know what's behind you, and this is why. It's not changing, it's just that you don't have time to do that when this situation occurs. So if you're using your mirrors regularly, every 4 to 5 seconds or thereabouts, then you should know what's behind you and you should have reacted on it. So let's say we get a car come really close behind us, we're driving down a road like this, we're not happy because there's kids playing, there's driveways, etc., then we'd slow down. So if the kid does fall off his bicycle or come flying down the road, we're ready to come to a stop. If we just ignore what's behind us, we could stop, that won't be a problem, but then they won't stop, they'll hit us and we'll hit whatever we stop for anyway. So if we're slower, we buy ourselves more time, we probably won't end up doing an emergency stop, we'll just end up stopping, which means the car behind would stop as well. So you must act on what you see. So we're certainly not saying ignore your mirrors, we're just saying when the situation occurs you don't have time to check again, be sure you reacted. It'd be a maximum of 4 seconds to 5 seconds since you last checked, and you should have reacted on that anyway. So first thing is we don't check the mirrors when it happens, we check the mirrors before, because we're looking in those mirrors say every 4 to 5 seconds. Then the next thing is quick reaction, so we need to get from the brake, no we don't, we need to get from the gas to the brake as quickly as possible. So really quick reactions, and you can practice that, just practice that watching the video. To take your foot like that, just move it quickly as possible. The quicker you move it, the quicker you're going to stop. Remember also the brake tends to be higher than the gas, so make sure you bring your foot up. Okay, otherwise you smack your foot into the brake and it's going to hurt if you've got flimsy shoes on, so make sure you bring your foot up and across, not just across. Then we need to brake what we call firm but progressively. So when you normally brake, you brake progressively and you add it, and then towards the end you ease off a bit. When you brake for emergency stop, the main difference is the foot goes all the way to the floor in one movement, no pausing, no width of a coin at a time, just straight down, about that sort of speed. If you punch it down, you're likely to put the car into a skid, which we're talking about in a moment. So firm but progressively. But really the main thing is that speed of reaction, and if you do it firm but progressively, you're stopping time. So once you've done that, you would put the car into, you would secure the car so it's handbrake neutral. You don't have to do that if you're going to pull away straight away, but for the purposes of exercise we're going to stop, and the instructor might have a little quick chat with you in the middle of the road, but hopefully not too long, and you just want to get the heart rate back to normal, particularly if it's a real situation. So it's handbrake neutral. Then your instructor will say we'll carry on, put it into gear as normal, get the biting point. And this is really important now, you do your POM as before, but make sure it's all 6 panes of glass. So it's the middle mirror, out the back window, through the side windows, through the front, the side windows here, over your right shoulder, and then to the front and go. You must do that because you're sat in the middle of the road. So it's quite easy for cars to, certainly in the middle of your lane, and these types of roads, the middle of the road. Certainly you could easily get cyclists and motorcyclists go past you, and possibly cars. I've seen cars drive on the pavement to get past us in the middle of the road, so you've got to be looking to see what's going on. If possible you could do a signal, but I'll let your instructor go through that because there's various scenarios for that and it would depend on where you are and what's going on around you. But it can benefit other cars than knowing you're just about to pull away, for example, and so they won't get on the pavement and stuff like that. So that's basic principles of emergency stop. Things that can happen when you're doing the emergency stop. The car could skid, and what that means is the car doesn't go in a straight line anymore. The wheels lock, they're not turning anymore, particularly if the road surface is worn out a bit, or it's chippy, or it's icy, or it's raining, any of those things, or if you just brake too firmly, too hard. If you punch the brake down, you'll whack those plates together and the car will skid. What you do when the car skids is, if you've got ABS brakes, which is an anti-lock braking system, and your instructor car probably has, but you need to check with them and hopefully they'll tell you, you would just keep your foot on the brake, because what that does, it allows you to steer and brake at the same time. It doesn't brake you any quicker, it doesn't stop the car any quicker, it just allows you to steer while you're braking, so that's quite important. Don't rely on your ABS to stop you any quicker, because that's not what it does. It just allows you to steer while you're braking if you need to. We don't steer willy-nilly, we steer if the car is skidding, or we need to steer around the child because it's frozen. It's just stopped in the road because it's frozen because it's seen you coming. You may need to steer around it. Okay, so once the brake is down, it stays down. If it's skidding, which means the wheels are locking up, you'll feel sort of a judder on your foot like that. Just keep the foot down. It's doing its job. It does what it does. It releases and unreleases the wheel. So just keep your foot firmly to the floor, and you'll be absolutely fine. To know which way to steer, you steer with the skid. So if your back end's going to the right, you steer to the right. If your back end's going to the left, you steer to the left. Best way of thinking about it is, if we skidded now and we were aiming towards that lamppost, I'd steer away from the lamppost. So you'd steer away from what you don't want to hit is the best way of thinking about it. And your natural instincts will make you do that. So you don't need to worry about, oh, which way have I got to steer? What did he say? You just steer away from what you don't want to hit. So if you're skidding and there's a bus coming, you'll steer away from it. Your mind will do that for you, so there's no problem. But remember to keep that brake to the floor. Okay. So we're going to go and have a go at that now. It's obviously important to have your seatbelt on at all times, and certainly for this manoeuvre, but all times anyway. And you're going to keep your hands firmly on the wheel, just so if you need to skid and you don't push yourself forward. And I'm not saying grip on for grim death, but just slightly firmer. So instead of being relaxed like that, we're just going to do that. Your instructor's going to look behind them to make sure there's no one behind you, so you don't end up with a motorcyclist in the boot. He's going to put a right hand up and say stop. Quite a firm voice. Stop. At that point, reaction starts. Brake, gas to brake, clutch down at the very end. The clutch needs to go down at the end. On certain cars, you'll need to ask your instructor what it is on their car. It depends on what it says in the handbook. Okay. On this car, it's at the end. If you forget the clutch or you mistime the clutch, it's not the end of the world, because at least you've stopped the car, which is the purpose of this exercise. Okay, so just to recap on it, we're not going to check the mirrors, we don't have time. We're going to keep the hands firmly on the wheel, and we're not going to steer unless we have to. So we don't go for the handbrake or anything like that, we just keep the hands firmly on the wheel. We put the brake down. If your foot judders, you keep the foot down, and the clutch goes down just before you stop, like it would at a junction. Before you pull away, you're going to go handbrake neutral, secure the car, check all 6 panes of glass, and then pull away when it's safe. Okay, so let's go and have a go at that. Put stuff off the seat, otherwise we're going to end up with all stuff all over the floor, aren't we? We don't want that. So start the engine would be a plan. So we'll look around as we do normally here, but remember you're going to be in the middle of the road in a moment, so you're definitely going to look around there. So I'm just going to check my mirror just to check no one behind me. Remember, you don't do it when they say stop, you just stop. That extra second to check in the mirror means you travel an extra 45 feet, which would be too far. You'd probably hit the child by then. So quick reactions are the main thing. Stop! So now secure the car. I'm going to put it into gear. I'm going to look all around and see a van coming. So I'm going to look out the back, look down the sides. Kids could run out. This is a real situation. Their parents might come. I've got people over on the right. And then I'm just going to pull away. I'm going to pull up on the left and let this van go. And that's basic principles. The emergency stop, quite straightforward, but you need to remember those main points, which is quick reactions and 6 panes of glass when you pull away. Thank you.